Welcome to the African Descendants Forum, where we celebrate the past, present, and future contributions of African heritage across the globe. My name is Dr. Milton Brown, and today we are honored to be joined by Jamaican Haitian artist, curator, and visionary Paula Ogun Hector, the creative force behind Tapestry of Black Britons. The tapestry is a groundbreaking, evolving artwork that honors the African and Caribbean contribution to Britain, stretching all the way back to the Roman era. This living tapestry interweaves a Yoruba creation story with World War II narratives, blending ancestral mythology with modern history. With over 2 decades presenting inclusive histories across television, public relations, and education, from BBC, Black Britain, to the Commission for Racial Equality, and leading alternative provision for neurodiverse young people, Paula brings both her heart and rigor to her mission. Paula, it's a pleasure to speak with you today.
Wonderful to be here.
You've been a very, very busy woman and busy and professional in the arts and heritage. How do you find time for all of this?
This is my passion, so I make time. I wake up every day happy to have a purpose. I have, I've always been interested in people and their stories since I was a little girl. I was born in Jamaica, and when I came here, I lived in rural places like Derbyshire and Hampshire. And we ended up living in Plymouth, and we had a bed and breakfast. And I was fascinated by these long-term guests we had in the bed and breakfast. Why were they there? Who were they? I've just always been really interested in people, and that's sort of perhaps where this began. Because then I was sort of interested in the fact that, just that we didn't seem to be in the national story here, people of African descent, and it led me to study African history at university, but I still felt I wasn't getting enough of our contribution. I still felt there was so much I didn't know, and even when I went to work in shows like BBC Black Britain, I mean, they were educating me really about our history in this country. I just felt, given I'm somebody who studied history, I've worked on these black shows, but I still know so little. There just came a point when I thought, you know what, I want to create a project where people can learn about the history, but in a really innovative and engaging way. And I wanted to appeal to lots of different learning styles. People who would enjoy crafting or might enjoy the poetry aspects, the community workshops, and that it could appeal to all ages, because I've blended heritage and technology with this project. And in fact, just yesterday, I was in Bristol talking to my augmented reality designer about what it is I want to create with the Yoruba tapestries and how we can use film and photography to bring like immersive tech into the exhibition space for World War II. And we're super excited. So that, for me, that's very unique, having the blend of heritage and also technology.
What led you to the tapestry idea?
So, tapestry it's a metaphor for the connections between us. And, ultimately I'm saying that there's more that divides us than unites us. And tapestry itself is not only is it ancient, it's cross-cultural. Every culture has like a weaving in their evolution. So therefore it can appeal to everybody because it's part of everybody's history essentially. But at one point, tapestry really was the cinema of its day, and only the rich and famous could afford to commission them. So thanks to how the technology around it has changed, somebody like me who isn't rich can take that technology and start weaving these new tapestries. I was also inspired by like the Bayo tapestry and African weaving traditions. I find them absolutely fascinating, and what an interesting way to lay out a story. It's like literally you feel like you're weaving the strands of history, and that's the special thing about tapestry creation.
And what do you think young people and generations that are going to follow will take away when they encounter the tapestry of Black Britain? Because you are a historian and an artist, yeah? So what is the punchline for you and young people?
You can always learn the lessons of history. And right now, today, when the rhetoric, this right-wing rhetoric that we're seeing we have to sort of remember that we've heard this before, and we don't fight right-wing rhetoric with more right-wing rhetoric. We've got to fight it with truthful narratives. We've got to find it with inclusive narratives. We're fighting this with love and empathy, because we have to try and remind people that we are all in this together, and that we're part of something bigger than just ourselves.
I always feel, though, I'm going to put this to you as a fellow historian as well. We grew up in an era where the Angela Davises, the Black Panther, the Martin Luther Kings, the Malcolm X's, the 1960s or 50s to 60s and 70s civil rights movement, the apartheid in South Africa. The millenniums really don't know none of this. Yeah. And how do we bridge this? Do we start with what's happening now and work the way back, or do we continue as historians to talk about what happened in the beginning and where we are today? Where is the access point where we connect with young people?
Well, I mean, in terms of this project, I'm hoping that they will connect via, multiple ways. So, for instance, with the augmented reality, by having that immersive experience, it's something that they, that using that technology that they're already using, taking those archive photos and the footage and saying, step into the space. You're gonna hear the sounds, you're gonna see it, you're gonna experience it. That's just one way. But then you've got a lot of young people who are interested in the crafting aspect. They actually find it a really mindful activity. So with some of those community workshops, being able to craft is very appealing to them. And the other thing that they find interesting is that spoken word aspect. I've had young people writing poetry responses, and but that's very satisfying to them. But I think ultimately, with when it comes to really understanding what's happened, we have to come at this in many, many ways. I mean, I was speaking to an amazing Bristol bus boycotter yesterday, who said her own grandchildren don't even believe the Bristol bus boycott happened. They don't believe it. And you just think, what? How can they not believe? So what? You've got the footage, you've got the photographs, and they still don't believe. So we have to make sure we are reinforcing the messages through education, cartoons, VR, projects like mine, and we have to come at it from many, many different angles, because this is our shared legacy.
That's a great shout. And there's something quite sweet that they don't even believe it, because they've lived in an era now where perhaps they haven't had the experiences that our elders had and we had growing up in the 60s and 70s. Isn't that quite sweet that their innocence is still there, and we're going to have to break that innocence, but in a gentle, immersive, experiential sort of way?
I think sadly, times have changed so quickly just in the last few months. If we look at that first wave of the right wing rioting and to what's happening lately, I mean, I had messages being sent to me, and I'm based in London, saying, don't go into central London if you're not white, because you might be at threat. And there are people from other parts of the country, young students, are supposed to like move into their accommodation, saying to their parents, of mixed heritage, black heritage, saying we don't want to go to London, mum, dad, but because of what we're hearing, what we're seeing. So actually, their innocence has already been. It's all things have already changed. If people were saying to me at one point, it's so different with the younger generation now. But actually, of course, they're hearing these messages. What the politicians are saying. I mean, there have been some shocking things being said. And what's happening is now right wing people feel they can come out. Those I'm not saying every right wing person is automatically racist, but some of them are now openly just saying things that are racist. Like it's fine. They've been given permission, and this stuff is filtering down, because then other people start saying it and think, oh, it's fine. Oh, it's fine to start saying, oh, well, there are too many black and brown people on television. I mean, that's what I heard from a reform person just the other day. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I'm just baffled. I wanted to say to this lady, it was Joyce Morris Wisdom, who joined the Bristol bus boycott when she was 14 years old, saying her grandchildren. I'm like, I want to speak to these grandchildren. How can they not believe you? I just wanted to understand that kind of whole concept, because Perhaps partly because they weren't taught about this stuff at school, number one, in the 60s. And perhaps they don't even believe in the African Caribbean contribution to World War II, because when they were taught about World War II and World War One, nobody mentioned anybody black or brown had anything to do with it. So how can they believe that we're part of the national story if it's not taught at any level, apart from maybe Jean Blanc now, when they're looking at Tudors, and that's just a maybe in primary school.
Well, you can't be what you can't see. So long may your work continue. What's been the feedback and reactions so far about your work?
Feedback so far has been lovely. People have been genuinely touched. They've said the project is joyful, uplifting, educational. I mean, yesterday I was in Bristol, and the High Sheriff of Bristol came, and I had created a special new photo banner because people had looked at the World War II tapestry and said to me afterwards, "Oh, but my dad served," or my mum contributed. And I thought, you know what, when it comes back to Bristol, I want to do something with some of these new voices that have emerged. And so I created I commissioned this lovely photo banner. And when she walked in and saw that her father, who had served in Burma, there he was in living colour, 3 images of him as well. She burst into tears because, because for him to be commemorated, I mean, wonderful. She's the High Sheriff of Bristol, but for her father to be remembered for his contribution, he'd gone out there, and so many of his friends never came back. And that's another thing with World War II. The focus is often on VE Day and the victory in Europe, and people forget about all those African and Indian soldiers, people from Asia, who were fighting in Burma, who had been so badly equipped. So many of them died and were not paid. Um, it's people are just so unaware of that. I had a Sikh gentleman saying to me that people are unaware of that Sikh contribution either, and I'm just like, we have to get this information out there. There are just no excuses now because there's so much misinformation. It's our job to get the truthful stories to the masses.
What brings you most joy in the process? Is it the research, the collaboration, the storytelling, or seeing people connect with the work?
All of the above. I mean, it's certainly wonderful when people tell me it brings them joy, or that it's meaningful, or that some people have said it's put a fire in my belly, thinking, what can I do? So to be giving others joy and uplifting them, and that people want to get involved as well. Um, but I suppose lately some of the things I've enjoyed are sort of hearing from some of the primary school children, seeing what other children have produced and asking me questions about it, or head teachers who say, "Oh, Paula, we'd like a version of this World War II tapestry in our school. Can you like make a copy for us? We want to decorate it." Or poets who want to like get involved. I mean, all of that makes me feel like I'm helping to create a sense that we are part of something bigger, that we are this community. We just have to keep building it, and people will want to get involved and to connect with other organisations, of course, who are doing brilliant work. I mean, I feel so blessed to have got some fantastic social justice partners in Bristol and Birmingham. And as this project moves, hopefully up to Huddersfield as well, I want to be building the network because that means so much to be meeting people, having connections, finding that synergy between us. Like, we're trying to put some good out into the world, and we're trying to make a difference.
This is just part one of the evolving national artwork. So, what is next? The Tapestry of Black Britons. What have you got planned for us?
So far, it's booked for touring exhibition until January 2028. I've got bookings. So I'm very, very happy about that. And in every area that it goes to, developing that programming with local artists and organisations and schools is so important. The next 2 tapestries going on the loom will be African Romans and also a carnival tapestry that's commemorating 60 years of the Notting Hill Carnival, that I want to incorporate carnivals from around the country as well, and obviously touch on the Caribbean and Africa as well. So that's really exciting. Those are the 2 next that will be woven. I'm also working with some young people to develop a plants tapestry, which is looking at the indigenous knowledge from Africa and the Caribbean, that was then used by Western medicine without acknowledgement, really, in their own development, to develop new medicines. But I want to look at where some of that knowledge came from, and I'm very interested in the research around that plants tapestry. And of course, 2028 is also the 70th anniversary of the NHS. So there will be a special British Health Service tapestry that may or may not be combined with this plants tapestry. I don't know, because I've never seen our sort of knowledge and our contribution put together in that way. And so I'd love to have like a poetry tapestry. I'm a massive fan of poetry. I taught English for a while, so I'm always looking for a way to sort of help people connect with the power of the word. I mean, I just love the creative arts. So whether it's poetry, dance, sculpture, a big thing that's happening just next year is, you probably know, it's 100 years of Black History Month in America. And, however, I mean, of course, we know Black history is British history and it's every single day of the year. It's global history, but that's still a significant anniversary. And I've got a big exhibition I'm co-curating that's a mixture of tapestries, ceramics, woodwork. And I'm super excited about that. That's going to be at the Craft Study Centre Museum, which is attached to the University of Creative Arts. So, the plan is to get to 10 tapestries by 2028 and to have, some massive exhibitions that year and going forward. And by then also have developed the AR and VR technology to offer immersive experiences with the past.
It sounds amazing, and I hope our ancestors guide and protect you at all times, Paula. I think your work is absolutely exceptional. It's different, it's innovative, and I'm sure you may not feel like you're getting much credit right now, but I can tell you now that you're a history maker, and only time will tell just how effective your work is and will be for present and future generations. So thank you for not only preserving history but expanding it. Your work reminds us that black presence in Britain is not a footnote, but a foundational thread in the national fabric. We look forward to witnessing the tapestry of Black Britons grow and inspire generations to come, and especially in the capital of the North, Huddersfield, next year. Okay. And to our audiences, that's all we have time for today. As always, stay tuned for more from the African Descent Forum and keep threading your own story into the future. Bye for now.